We're going to get into your rich history, but want to focus on Flywheel right now. And 3 words to you, and I want you to give me a sentence on each. SoulCycle, Peloton, Flywheel.
Oh, wow. Okay. SoulCycle, like, huge respect. Love what they do for party animals. Where are you? I know you're in there. Peloton, huge respect for what they do. Lots of indoor cyclists. Flywheel, for badasses. Where are you? Where are the athletes in the room? No, in all seriousness, raise your hand right now if you are that person when you go to the gym and you are on the treadmill, you can't help but cast your eyes across to the person next to you and you're aware whether you're going faster than them or not. Be honest. Okay, you are a Flywheel rider and I love you.
What did you say about SoulCycle party animals?
Yes.
What does that mean?
It's funny, as you know, I used to be at Equinox and involved with SoulCycle, and we always used to call it a party on a bike, and
really?
it's great. It's a very...
Because it's a social activity.
Absolutely,
it's a club.
yes.
It's a community.
Yeah.
So Sarah was the president of Equinox, and so now you're competing against Equinox, and you have which owns SoulCycle, and you have a big announcement this week. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so tomorrow, ladies, we are going to be announcing that we're taking our in-studio experience to the home. So we're launching an at-home bike and a streaming platform, and essentially taking our amazing studio experience and making it so you can do it anywhere. We call it Fly Anywhere, so we're pretty excited.
Is it called Fly Anywhere or Flywheel Anywhere?
Fly Anywhere.
Fly Anywhere.
Look at you, Patty.
So Sarah, I know that I was so fascinated so Sarah had left Equinox. She started a company called Extreme You. Now this was your first startup, right?
Yes.
And then you got recruited. You got a call, I guess, from a man named Lou Frankfurt, who, being at Fortune as long as I actually have interviewed Lou Frankfurt in my life. Lou Frankfurt built Coach and was the CEO, former school teacher who remarkably spent I think close to 20 years building Coach. Yes. He is now the chairman of Flywheel, and what did he do? How did you get the call in the office from the Flywheel?
So I should start by saying I actually didn't start a company. I started a platform called Extreme You. And it was driven by the fact that I will get into it in a second, but I really wanted to help young people sort of achieve the most of their own potential. And so it was all about how can I put tools and information into the world to help them do that, right? So, and I was launching a book, as you know, and I had sworn that I was not going to take a job at all, and then Lou Frankfurt comes along, and you know Lou, he's a fairly persistent and compelling person, and he said, just listen to me, just at least get to know this little company, and then make your mind up. And sure enough, what I found with Flywheel, which I just love, is that it was just this intersection of everything that my career has been building towards. And I think
which means what?
It's okay. You ready for this, ladies? I started in airlines, so combine airlines, sports, and fitness. And so if you think about it, one of my first most boring jobs in the world was being in the load management section of Air New Zealand, which means butts on seats. Who would have thought that 25 years later I'd be in a business that was butts on seats, just a different kind of butts on seats, right? And I share that story because I do think often younger in our careers, you think you're in this place that isn't you, right? I used to say, I'm not an airline person. I mean, come on. Do I look like I sniff jet fuel? I am not an airline person. Yet you don't realize that those skills are actually taking you somewhere else that you can use later on. And so I really do look back and I think airlines, service industry, customer service, all of that stuff, plus obviously sports and fitness, you put it together and then along comes Flywheel, which isn't just a sports and fitness company. It's for people who are very athletic, very into fitness, very competitive. Raise your hand, if you are that person, Sarah, Robb O'Hagan.
This is a room full of those people. These are your people.
And I do believe there's something amazing in your career when you find yourself serving the consumer that is your tribe. You're very passionate about it.
So you decide to come on board, and you have 42 facilities. Did you envision Fly Anywhere from the start? Was it already in the plans, or is this something that you brought to the company?
Yeah, no, so the board actually had already made the decision to launch a streaming platform because I think everybody could see that is where fitness and the consumer is moving. I mean, you look at the fitness app category, it's $1 billion category right now. It's like one of the fastest growing in the App Store. So we knew that the consumer wanted fitness to go with them wherever they were, and so the board had made that decision. And I think part of the reason to recruit me was knowing that I had sort of, my whole career had intersected between not only the service and sports and fitness, but also technology in a pretty significant way. And so it was definitely an opportunity for growth that really played into my core skill set.
So now you're going head to head with Peloton. How is this going to be different from Peloton?
It's so funny. I don't see us as going head to head with anyone because the way, it's so funny, people look at our category and they think it's all about cycling. They think it's about a modality. I think of it, and my team think of it, it's about a tribe. And we happen to, as I mentioned before, because Flywheel basically was the first company to put technology on the bike. Has anyone ridden at Flywheel in here? Awesome, love you. So what that means is, in the old days in spinning, you'd sit in the back of a room and the instructor would say, turn up the resistance, and you'd sort of pretend, kind of, sort of, and you wouldn't. Right. Whereas when Ruth Zuckerman, who was the amazing fitness instructor that founded Flywheel, they were the first to say, well, what if you put technology on the bike so that, first of all, when the instructor says, hit this number and hit this output, you actually are accountable to doing that. And secondly, we added what we call talk boards at the front of the room so you can compete with other people in the room if you are so inclined. What ended up happening is we were like, bees to a honeypot when it came to competitive athletes, is what we call them, and passionate athletes. These people who are really into accountable fitness. I mean, our average rider at our bar Pulses, they work out 5 to 6 days a week. They are so into the category. They are a tribe, and that's who we're serving. So we're kind of like focused on what more do we do for them.
What percentage of the people who go to Flywheel actually put their names on the boards?
It's a great question. Actually, more than you would expect, so probably close to 40% put their name on the board. And then what's even more interesting is the people that don't, what we've heard from them is that they may not put themselves on the board, but they're pacing against someone else who is. And so it's very important to our riders to sort of have that ability to see, did I do better today than yesterday? I want the accountability.
So Sarah, I mean, it's very clever of you to say that you're not competing head to head with Peloton, but you're going to be, I mean, that is the audience, the target audience, your community that you just described, competitive athletes, at least from what I understand, that is the Peloton audience. And you're both basically selling to warriors. And you're going to be selling bikes and streaming content. And so how is it, if I'm deciding, I think I'll get a Peloton or I'll buy a bike and a subscription with Flywheel Sports, how can I decide?
Yeah. So first of all, our offering is different to the existing players. So you guys, if you Google tomorrow morning, you will find out the specifics. So it is different. And no, I'm not. My PR people are like, you're not allowed to. I knew you would do that. But secondly, and most importantly, what I love about our offering is we are a full omni-channel offering. We have 42 studios, which we're very bullish about continuing to grow, and a streaming platform. So if you join the Flywheel community, you're joining over 500,000 riders that are already in our database, so you're able to compare all of your stats to them. You're able to participate in challenges that are in the studio, outside the studio, at home, wherever you go. We also have a ton of credibility, so we have our history in Flywheel, obviously, but Fly Bar, anybody? Has anyone done Fly Bar? Hashtag buns of steel, okay?
What is that?
It is bar programming that is like very athletic, and you will walk away, like I'm gonna make you do it. You will walk away with like literally your butt will hurt for days because it's precision training. So we have all of that content that we've got years of credibility in that we're now able to shift into the at-home platform. So yes, there'll be cycling, but there'll also be strength training, bar programming, etc. So.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Who has a question?
Ooh. Oh,
Okay, over way back here.
Oh, I do like the little lollipop.
Hi, Jenna Powers from Amazon, and also ultra endurance athlete.
Wow.
And so I know that you talk a lot about the intersection between athletic endeavors and career success.
Yes.
And what I find really discouraging when I talk to a lot of women about that as well, especially adult women, they say, well, I don't really run, or I don't really like to do that. And there's this idea that once you become an adult, if you hadn't done it growing up, then that's not your thing. Yeah. And so what advice do you have for women in their adult years about picking up and trying something new that might challenge them in this way?
Such an awesome question. So ladies, you need to know this. 80% of Fortune 500 women played sports in high school. Raise your hand if you're one of them. Shocker, look at that, right? So there is a giant connection between youth sports experiences for girls and later leadership. However, by the age of 14, girls drop out of sports at twice the rate of boys because often the father in the household is okay with the little girl saying, I'm going to go off and do other things, but they won't accept that with a boy. So number one, to your question, we all have to stop that happening. If you have any young girls in your life, please, please, please keep them in sports. But secondly, I do think there are many people who get to their 20s and they've never had that experience as a child, and therefore the whole running, working out thing, why would I do that? And I always try and encourage people to just take a baby step into it, because I do believe fitness is all about momentum, and it can start for you with a 2K walk in the mornings, and then what does that become the next day when you just push yourself a little bit further? And at the end of the day, to be strong, healthy, strong, empowered, amazing women, which is everyone here, yes. We have to have strong, amazing bodies and minds to do it, right? So I do think it's a big part of your success.
So Sarah, keep thinking. Raise your hand. I'll come back to you. Sarah, you and I have known each other for a while, and one of the things that has always intrigued me about you is you have the career I think that we kind of all would like to have, working for some of the most famous, big brand, really good brand companies. I mean, so Air New Zealand was your first. Then you went to Virgin. Then you went to Nike. Then you went to PepsiCo. Sarah ran Gatorade, which was at the time, I guess, about a $5 billion brand. Then you went to Equinox, and you were president at Equinox, and then now you're CEO of Flywheel. So what are the branding lessons that you have learned from those companies? I mean, if you could just tick off three.
I think that I often get this question from entrepreneurs too, I'm starting a company and how do I build a great brand? And the most important thing that I have learned from all of them, and I also I believe it applies to us as leaders and individuals in developing our careers, is to understand what is your specialist game. And what I mean by that is be spectacular for a few consumers, not average for many. And at every brand that I've worked for, who have sustained these amazing positions for decades, that is why. I always ask the question, when you think about the airline industry, average airlines, do you raise your hand and go, God, I'm passionate about that? No, but then when you speak about Virgin or JetBlue that have such a strong, defined position, we love those brands, right? Same with Nike, they don't try and go after everyone, they position for athletes. Same with Flywheel, that's why I say, there's a ton of people who work out every day, but there's a big chunk of them I'm not even going to target.
Okay, so that's a fantastic lesson. Give us a couple of others.
Second one is do not get distracted by the competition. So that happens a lot today. New startup comes along. Do I need to sort of be into the same thing? No. What you need to do is relentlessly innovate for your core consumer, which leads to the third lesson. How do you do that? It's not about looking at their behaviors, what they do. It's about understanding why. So in the case of, of my business, someone who's coming to work out for social reasons is very different to someone who's coming to work out for competitive reasons, yet they might both be doing the exact same thing, right? But I've got to innovate for the motivation around my core tribe.
Right. Questions? Yes, we have one right here.
Hi there. So you mentioned that you had worked on these you have transferable skills. Sorry.
Could you identify
yeah.
yourself?
Yeah, I'm Stephanie from Toys R Us.
Oh,
So you have these transferable skills, but at the time, maybe not realizing you were kind of building your toolkit. You also seem like a person who's really passionate at whatever you're doing at the time. So how have you made those decisions to transfer your skills to a completely new industry or company?
yeah. Well, as Patty knows, it starts by getting fired twice. That kind of helps.
Tell us briefly explain your getting fired twice.
Let's see, I got fired from Virgin Megastores when I was 26. Then you skipped in my resume, I worked for Atari. Has anyone even heard of Atari? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got fired from there too.
Who here knows what Atari
Even
was?
is, I know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm the queen of making really bad career decisions. Like I joined music retail when Napster came along. Like, let's think that through. But no, I joke about it, but I actually talk very openly about it. And one of the reasons I wrote a book was to talk openly about it because
Extreme You is the book.
because I actually think that sometimes if those things haven't happened to you, you might actually not make the big changes that make you realize there are transferable skills, right? And so it's funny in my case later in life, as Patty knows, when I quit Equinox, it was partly because I was like, I'd rather disrupt myself than have someone do it to me and tell me, here's a one-way ticket back to New Zealand and you're about to get deported, you know? So it's better to be aware that you have skills that can go into multiple places, and if you're comfortable and if you're at the top of your game, push yourself to take them somewhere else.
So just explain it briefly, if you can, why you got fired those 2 times and what are the lessons from it? What did you learn about yourself?
Yeah, so the first time I was way over my skis. I was in an industry I knew nothing about and completely...
That was at Virgin.
Virgin retail. I'd come from airlines and I'm just completely applying the same things that had worked for me in another industry, just blindly I got this. I was unwilling to ask for help. I was arrogant. I can go down the list, right? And in the end, when I got fired, looking back on it, it took me probably 6 months to realize that I so deserved it. And I actually think the biggest lesson I got out of all of it was humility and grit and resilience. Because, everyone in the room, I'm guessing, is not going to work every day. I'd love to get fired. It's not something we all want to have happen, right? But when it happens, you don't even know the depths of your own grit to get through a situation like that. And I think then when you go on later in life and you're in bigger, more challenging leadership situations, you really tap into that.
And what was the second time?
Oh, the second time was just think about picking a job and a career and an industry that you care about. I knew nothing about video games. I mean, you guys, this is Sporty Sarah, sitting in, what was I doing? And I just was so out of my depth. And
it's seats and butts.
Yeah.
It's butts and seats, I mean.
Yeah. So yes.
Yeah. Sarah, what is power?
What is power? Gosh, I think it's the ability and willingness to live your truth, actually. Be who you are, openly who you are, and follow that journey.